I'm Tavus Prommer, founder of CTAIO.dev, the destination for future tech leadership. 2 decades in tech as a developer, engineering manager, CTO, and CIO, working inside companies like Apple, Google, Nike, Adidas, and Netflix. Today, I help Fortune 50 enterprises adopt AI, and I've put everything I've learned into a tech and AI playbook built from the best practices of these companies. You can find it at prommer.net. Subscribe at ctaio.dev for weekly updates. And if you want to say hi, visit prommer.net. Response guaranteed. This is episode 2 of Building My AI Twin. 3 weeks ago, we cloned my voice across 8 engines. Today, the experiment moves to video. AI video avatars. This is honestly one of the most exciting areas I've worked in, and also one I'm genuinely suspicious of. There is real anxiety around this technology right now, and there should be. So the experiment is simple. How good are these tools really at this point? And how detectable is an AI clone of a person from the actual person? 5 platforms. HeyGen, Synthesia, Akool, Tavus, AI Studios. Same clip, same script, $47 across the whole experiment. Some results were better than I expected. Some failed in ways the platforms themselves never warned me about, including a German render that replaced my Bavarian hometown with crude slang. About 40 minutes ahead. Then I'll come back at the end with the executive summary and what to do this quarter. Let's get into it.
Imagine spending months just carefully planning out your entire global corporate communications strategy. You decide to really lean in, right?
Right. Leverage the absolute cutting edge of 2026 technology.
Exactly. So you pay to clone your CEO's likeness. The goal is to instantly generate these, highly personalized, multilingual updates for all your international teams.
It's the ultimate enterprise dream, honestly.
It really is. So you feed the system this meticulously translated German script. The AI generates the video. And, the CEO looks fantastic. The lighting is perfect. The lip sync is completely flawless.
And you just hit publish and send it straight to your largest investors in Munich.
Right. And that is exactly when the catastrophic liability realizes itself.
Because what the vendor completely failed to tell you is that their state-of-the-art video model doesn't just read the text you give it.
No, it secretly rewrites it. And in this specific case, instead of pronouncing the CEO's hometown, which is Roth in Bavaria, the AI completely hallucinated a replacement.
It just threw the script out and inserted the phrase Fürz in Roth.
Which, to put it bluntly for anyone listening who doesn't speak German, translates roughly to fart in red.
Yep. Fart in red, sent directly to your investors.
It's terrifying. But that is the actual reality of enterprise AI video generation right now. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we are looking at a really rigorous, highly opinionated, and honestly incredibly revealing hands-on experiment. It was conducted by tech executive Tavus Personal.
And I want to be clear right up front, this is not a vendor press release.
No, definitely not. This isn't some generic hype piece about, the future of video content. Prommer is a CTO.
Right. He's someone who actually has to build these systems.
Exactly. He decided to stop reading the glossy marketing brochures and actually stress test the 5 major AI video avatar platforms.
And he used real money and his own face to do it.
That's the best part. The parameters of this test were just brilliantly restricted to force these platforms to show their true colors.
Yeah, he used the exact same 15-second reference clip of himself across the board.
And the exact same 155-word source script.
Right. And he evaluated HeyGen, Synthesia, Akool, Tavus, and AI Studios. He wanted to know what actually works for high-stakes editorial content in production today.
We're talking about founder talking heads, executive newsletters, brand storytelling, stuff where identity fidelity is just absolutely non-negotiable.
And what makes this teardown so essential for any tech leader or AI strategy decision maker listening right now is the actual price tag of the experiment.
Oh, this is wild.
Yeah.
How much did he spend to uncover all this?
Prommer spent a grand total of $47.
$47 to uncover structural architectural failures that could literally cost an enterprise millions in brand damage.
It's incredible ROI on a test.
Truly. And we have to start right there. We have to start with the single most important finding of this entire experiment.
The silent hallucination gap.
Right. The exact thing that caused that disastrous Fürz and Roth incident we just talked about.
So to really understand why that hallucination happened, we first need to look at the architecture of the platform that actually generated it.
Which was HeyGen, specifically their Avatar V model.
Right, Avatar V, because on paper, and certainly in English, HeyGen performed incredibly well.
Yeah, Prommer gave the English render a 7 out of 10. He actually noted it was the only one of the 5 platforms he would trust on a client's homepage.
So it's visually stunning. The question is, what is HeyGen doing under the hood that makes the English version so good, but then makes it completely fall apart in translation?
Yeah, what's the architectural difference there?
Well, Avatar V represents a genuine paradigm shift in how we generate synthetic video. If you look at older photo-to-video models, and honestly, even many of their current competitors, they rely on this thing called a low-dimensional speaker embedding.
Okay, let's break that down for the audience. A low-dimensional speaker embedding, that basically means the system takes your high-definition video and compresses all your unique biology into a tiny math file, right?
Exactly. It compresses your facial structure, your unique micro-expressions, even the asymmetry of your smile.
And the specific lighting of the room you're in.
Right. All of it gets crushed down into this highly compressed mathematical vector. It's basically like trying to describe the Mona Lisa to someone over the phone using only 5 words.
Wow. And then ask them to paint an exact replica on the other end.
Exactly. The system's decoder has to rely on that tiny compressed file to reconstruct your face frame by frame.
And I imagine that leads to the biggest issue we see in early AI video, which is identity drift.
Precisely. Identity drift is massive. If you use a compressed embedding, the further the video timeline wanders from that original first frame, the more the model slowly just forgets what you look like.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Your eyes start drifting slightly further apart, or the skin texture just completely smooths out into plastic.
Right. Or the physics of your clothing just stop making any sense whatsoever. But HeyGen moved away from that bottleneck entirely.
Okay, so what are they doing instead?
Avatar V uses what's called a Diffusion Transformer, and it conditions on the full reference video token sequence.
Wait, meaning instead of looking at a compressed summary of my face, the AI is continuously looking back at the actual high-resolution source video.
Yes. At every single millisecond of generation, the model has continuous access to your exact likeness.
But historically, wouldn't doing that require just an astronomical amount of computing power?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If an AI has to look at every single pixel of a 15-second 1080p video while also generating new frames, the GPU requirements scale quadratically.
Right, it would bankrupt the vendor instantly.
It really would. But HeyGen implemented this brilliant technique called sparse reference attention.
So they figured out a way to give the AI access to the full video without completely blowing up the server farm.
Exactly. Sparse attention keeps the compute costs linear rather than quadratic. So the model selectively pays attention only to the most relevant features of the source video for the specific frame it is currently drawing.
That is fascinating. So that's the architectural breakthrough that lets you drop a short clip in and get a consistent 10-minute video back where your face never melts.
Yes. The visual pipeline is incredibly robust. That explains the 98.4% word recall and the near-perfect fidelity they got in English.
Okay, but this brings us to the localization test. Because Prommer didn't just want an English video.
No, he wanted to see if the platform could actually deliver on its promise of global, multilingual communications.
Right, the whole reason you buy these enterprise tools. So he takes his meticulously polished source script and runs it through DeepL to create a highly accurate German translation.
And the expectation here, which is the assumption literally every CTO makes when evaluating these tools, is that the AI will basically act like a traditional teleprompter.
You provide the text, the AI reads the text exactly as written, just using your voice and your face.
Right. But a modern video model is not a simple text-to-speech phonetic reader anymore.
And this is where we hit that silent failure mode.
Exactly. HeyGen's generation pipeline appears to have a large language model acting autonomously right in the middle of the workflow.
Wait, autonomously?
Yeah. The system didn't just read Prommer's German script. It intercepted it, analyzed it, and completely rewrote it before it ever passed it to the audio and video generators.
Okay, let's look at the actual data from the transcript comparison. Because the drop-off here is just staggering.
It really is.
The English script had a 98.4% word recall based on the whisper transcription, but the German script
The character similarity plummeted to 26.8%.
26.8%. That's not even close.
It wasn't just dropping words either. It was actively hallucinating completely new concepts into the video.
Like what? What did it add?
So Prommer's source script, when translated back to English, said something like, "My passion is also an active high-performance lifestyle. I build technology and chase the finish line."
Right, a standard, very clean executive statement.
Exactly. But the HeyGen render basically hijacked that thought. It injected the phrase AI-based technology, which is AI-based technology, which was literally nowhere in the source text.
So it's just throwing in buzzwords.
Yeah, and then it hallucinated a tangent about chasing various athletic finish lines. The model was essentially just ad-libbing.
It's acting like an overeager intern who decides your keynote speech isn't punchy enough.
Exactly.
So it just starts adding its own flavor text on the teleprompter while you're live on stage.
That's exactly what it's doing.
But, adding a few adjectives about AI technology is one thing. The corruption of proper nouns is what makes this completely unviable for corporate use.
Right. The Fürz in Roth hallucination is the perfect encapsulation of why this architectural understanding actually matters to a business.
Because Prommer's script contained his actual hometown in Bavaria, which is Roth.
Yeah.
R-O-T-H.
And the model looked at that proper noun, decided it didn't like it or didn't understand it, and completely swapped it out for Fürz and Roth.
It mangled it into crude slang. And I know it didn't stop there.
Right. No, it destroyed his actual name, too. It rendered Thomas Prommer as Thomas Prommer, ending with an A instead of an ER.
Wow.
And it took his corporate website URL, Prommer.net, and proudly announced it on video as Prommer.net.
Which guarantees that anyone watching the video who actually tries to visit his site is going to hit a dead link.
Yep, an absolute dead end.
If I am an executive, this is terrifying, because the user interface gives you absolutely zero warning that this rewrite has occurred.
None at all. The render finishes, you download the MP4, and honestly, the lip sync looks amazing.
So if you don't speak German fluently, you would confidently email that video to a massive client, completely unaware that your digital twin just swore at them and gave them the wrong website.
And this is exactly why we have to distinguish between a platform's raw visual capabilities and its governance safety.
Right, HeyGen built a phenomenal visual rendering engine.
They did. But by utilizing a generative pipeline that prioritizes a natural sounding flow over strict text adherence, they introduced a massive liability.
Because a generative model is just trying to smooth out text to fit the statistical distribution of its training data.
Exactly. And proper nouns like names, unique hometowns, specific trademarks, those are often statistical outliers. So the model thinks it's being helpful and corrects them.
Corrects them into slang.
Yeah.
So what is the actionable takeaway here for a tech leader listening? I assume it isn't necessarily to just abandon HeyGen because visually it clearly won the test.
Right. You don't abandon it, but structurally you absolutely have to change your workflow. You must strip away the assumption of trust.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
If you use these platforms for non-English localization, you cannot rely on the vendor's marketing copy that claims seamless support for 175 languages.
You have to verify it.
You must implement a mandatory manual transcript review step.
How?
You have to take that finished audio, run it back through a transcription model like Whisper, or honestly, hire a human native speaker.
Just to verify that the AI didn't hallucinate a liability into your script before it touches a public channel.
Yes. That is a critical, non-negotiable governance checkpoint.
Okay, so HeyGen failed by creatively rewriting the script behind the user's back. But as Prommer continued his evaluation, he ran into a platform that took the exact opposite approach, didn't he?
He did. A platform that read the script perfectly, hitting incredible text fidelity, but fundamentally failed at the one thing you are actually paying for.
Which is the identity itself. We're all talking about Synthesia here.
Specifically, their Selfie Avatar at the $18 a month starter tier.
Now, Synthesia is the heavyweight in this room. They are the enterprise incumbent valued in the billions.
Oh yeah, they have the SOC 2 Type 2 certifications, the GDPR compliance, the granular role-based access controls.
They are the vendor that a procurement committee just loves to buy because it feels so safe.
And visually, I have to say, they offer features that are genuinely astounding. Prommer tested their text-to-outfit prompting, and it was incredible.
Wait, text-to-outfit, so he didn't have to record a new video to change his clothes?
Nope. He uploaded a single, standard studio headshot of himself wearing just a basic white t-shirt. He typed the phrase "navy unstructured blazer" into the prompt box, and the AI flawlessly generated a consistent video avatar wearing exactly that.
That is wild.
Then he changed the prompt to tailored two-button suit, and the wardrobe redrew itself perfectly while maintaining the structural integrity of his face.
We really have to pause and appreciate the technical mechanics of that. Because it isn't just slapping a 2D sticker of a suit over his neck, is it?
No, not at all. It is actively manipulating the latent space of a diffusion model, specifically targeting the clothing region, while locking the facial identity in place.
So it understands the physics of how a lapel should actually cast a shadow on the shirt underneath.
Exactly. None of the other platforms in this test offered anything even close to that level of generative wardrobe control from a single photo.
And unlike HeyGen, Synthesia's script adherence was exceptional, right?
Yes. The whisper transcription on the English render showed a 97.5% word recall.
So it was essentially a perfect one-to-one match. The text was exactly right, the visual outfit was stunning.
But the entire render was ruined because the voice clone failed.
Different failure mode entirely.
Hey.
It mispronounced his name.
It mispronounced his own surname, it looked at the word Prommer, and rendered the audio as Prahm.
It just completely dropped the second syllable.
Completely dropped it. Furthermore, it totally skipped over the word Roth. Just acted as if the hometown didn't even exist in the text.
Okay, but how does a multi-billion-dollar platform with SOC2 compliance fail to pronounce a standard phonetic surname when a much cheaper platform got it right?
It comes down to the underlying text-to-speech architecture they are deploying at that specific pricing tier. Synthesia is heavily reliant on phonetic dictionaries and standardized corporate voice models.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, when you clone a voice rapidly on a lower tier, you aren't getting a deeply fine-tuned audio model. You're often just getting a baseline synthetic voice that is heavily pitch-shifted and timed to match your sample.
So when that baseline model encounters a regional or uncommon surname that isn't in its lookup table,
it defaults to a really crude algorithmic guess.
wow. So it read the script accurately, but it read it in the completely wrong voice.
Exactly. But it wasn't just the audio that felt wrong. Prommer noted that the physical movement of the avatar felt distinctly off.
Yes, the identity drift in motion. While the static face looked like him, the hand gestures and the facial microexpressions didn't belong to him at all.
They read like a canned stock corporate asset.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's that robotic podium stance, where the avatar just moves their hands up and down in this rhythmic, almost metronomic way.
Right. It has absolutely no connection to the actual emotion or cadence of the words being spoken.
It looks like an animatronic character at a theme park.
Exactly. And the root cause of that robotic movement is the difference between true 3D spatial understanding and 2D image warping.
Because this starter tier uses a photo-trained model, right?
Right, the selfie avatar. So it doesn't actually know how Prommer's body moves in three-dimensional space. It takes its 2D photo, isolates the facial landmarks, and essentially stretches and morphs those pixels to match a pre-recorded stock animation skeleton.
Oh, wow. So it's basically puppeteering a photograph.
Precisely. It is highly advanced puppeteering, but the human brain instantly recognizes the disconnect. On the 4-dimension evaluation scale Prommer used, this render scored a worst of 5, barely hitting a 2 out of 10.
Okay, but if I am a tech leader listening to this, I really have to push back a little on the methodology here.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Prommer explicitly notes that this $18 a month starter tier uses a photo-trained model. But Synthesia has much better models, right? They have the Express 2 model, which actually unifies facial expressions and hand gestures seamlessly.
They do.
So why didn't he just use that? Isn't it a bit unfair to judge a massive enterprise platform by its cheapest photo tier?
It actually isn't unfair at all. In fact, it exposes the core procurement trap of the entire enterprise AI market.
Really? How so?
You are entirely correct that Synthesia possesses superior video-trained models. But to access a personal avatar on those advanced models, you are forced to upgrade to their creator tier.
Okay, and how much does that cost?
$64 a month.
Okay.
Compare that to HeyGen. HeyGen's Avatar V, which gave Prommer full video-trained fidelity and continuous token sequencing, costs $29 a month.
So Synthesia demands 3.5 times the price just to give you an avatar that actually moves like you do.
Exactly. Synthesia is acting like a massive legacy PR firm. It wears a very expensive suit, it checks all the legal compliance boxes, but it is completely inflexible, highly expensive, and honestly lacks any authentic soul.
Whereas HeyGen is a quarter of the price and visually just dominates it.
And that leads to the definitive conclusion regarding Synthesia for this specific use case. If you are producing an executive newsletter or a founder introduction where the audience already knows exactly what you look and sound like,
Synthesia starter tier is completely unviable.
the identity drift is just too severe.
Okay, so we have HeyGen hallucinating slang and Synthesia forgetting how to pronounce the user's name. Both platforms produced highly revealing failures.
But the most fascinating part of Prommer's experiment might actually be the platforms that didn't even get a score.
Right, because 2 of the 5 platforms were skipped entirely. And the reasons why a CTO would actively choose to skip a platform offer a masterclass in vendor evaluation.
In the software architecture world, there's this fundamental heuristic. Time to first render and self-serve friction are massive vendor fit signals.
Meaning the amount of effort a company requires you to expend just to test their product tells you exactly who they are building for.
And more importantly, who they do not care about.
Let's start with Tavus, because on paper, Tavus looks like a really strong contender, but Prommer hit an immediate wall.
The wall was the paywall. Tavus charges $59 a month for its starter tier.
Now, for an enterprise, $59 is obviously just a rounding error. It isn't the cost that's the problem.
No, it is the friction. Tavus offers no free trial path whatsoever. There is no sandbox environment to upload a test clip. There is no money-back guarantee if the output looks terrible.
You are basically forced to hand over your credit card and pay the $59 just to find out if the platform can even clear the baseline quality bar.
Which is wild, because every other platform in this test, HeyGen, Synthesia, Akool, they all allowed the user to see some version of the output quality before locking them into a subscription.
Right. When a vendor refuses to let you see the product without paying first, that is a huge red flag for agile tech teams.
It is. But the real realization came when Prommer looked past the paywall and examined the platform's persona library and marketing templates.
What did he find in there?
He found templates specifically optimized for sales coaches, sales development reps, and customer support agents.
Okay.
What he did not find were any templates for high-fidelity brand storytelling, executive newsletters, or editorial content.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. If a vendor won't let you try the product without swiping a card, they aren't building for agile creators.
Right.
But more importantly, the templates tell you the actual use case. If they only care about SDRs and customer support bots, they aren't building a broadcast quality video tool.
Exactly. And if we look at the specific underlying technology Tavus uses, their entire go-to-market strategy suddenly clicks into place.
Because Tavus doesn't use the standard batch rendering pipelines that HeyGen or Synthesia use, right?
No, Tavus relies on an engine called Phoenix 4, which is built on neural radiance fields, or NeurFs.
Okay, we definitely need to unpack NeurFs, because this is a massive distinction in how these tools operate. How does a neural radiance field differ from what HeyGen is doing?
Well, traditional video generation models, like diffusion models, operate in the 2D pixel space. They generate frames sequentially, trying to guess what the next frame should look like based on the previous one.
Right.
But NeurFs take an entirely different approach. They actually construct a volumetric 3D mathematical scene in the cloud.
Wait, so they aren't just drawing a picture of my face. They are calculating the actual geometry of my nose, the depth of my eye sockets, and how light bounces off my skin in 3 dimensions.
Exactly. NeurFs shoot virtual rays through the scene to calculate color and density at every point in space.
Wow.
Now, during the initial training phase, building that 3D volume is incredibly computationally expensive. It takes significant time and server power to mount the face.
But once that 3D scene is built...
Once it's built, rendering new movements against a live audio stream is remarkably cheap and incredibly fast.
Because it already knows the 3D shape, it just has to move the virtual muscles. It's essentially creating a hyper-realistic video game character of your face that can react instantly.
Precisely. Because of that architecture, Tavus can hit 40 frames per second at 1080p resolution with sub-second latency, and it can do that running on standard consumer hardware.
That architecture is purpose-built for real-time conversational video. It is designed to be an AI SDR bot that talks to a customer live on a website.
Exactly. So evaluating Tavus for a pre-recorded, asynchronous executive talking head video is evaluating it for the completely wrong job.
It is like buying a Formula One car to do your grocery shopping. The technology is incredible, but the application is totally mismatched.
That is exactly why Prommer skipped the render. It is a real-time rendering engine, not a batch generation engine.
Which brings us to the second skip of the experiment. AI studios, also known as DeepBrain AI. Now, this is a fascinating inclusion because if you work in the Western tech ecosystem, you might not have even heard of them.
But globally, they are massive. They are an absolute juggernaut in the APAC enterprise sector, specifically in Korea.
Yeah, AI Studios provides the synthetic avatars for major television networks over there, and they power the kiosks and internal tools for massive corporations like LG and KT.
They are heavily positioned as the primary enterprise alternative to Synthesia.
If you go to their website, they have a standard free tier UI. You can click around, pick a stock avatar, type in some text.
But Prommer isn't evaluating this as a casual user. He is evaluating this as a CTO.
Right. And a CTO needs to know if the platform can scale programmatically.
Well,
You can't have an intern manually clicking generate 1,000 times a day. You need an API.
exactly. And AI Studio's documentation clearly outlines a functional, free-tier API designed for developers to test programmatically.
Okay, so Prommer generated his API keys, set up his environment, and attempted to call the documented endpoints to initiate the custom avatar workflow.
And do you know what happened?
What happened?
Every single endpoint he called returned a 301 redirect.
A 301 redirect. So instead of the API server accepting the payload, authenticating the keys, and returning the expected JSON response.
The server simply intercepted the request and forwarded it to a generic web address.
Wow. So the server redirected the programmatic API call to a React web app catch-all page.
Yes. And because an ATI client isn't a web browser, that redirection resulted in a complete failure, ultimately returning a 404 HTML error.
The documented self-serve API simply does not function for free tier users.
No, it doesn't. So the documentation tells developers they can build and test, but the actual infrastructure aggressively blocks them.
So the only way to actually access the API to generate your own personal avatar is to abandon the self-serve path entirely and submit a form to their enterprise sales team.
And that, right there, is the friction signal. If a platform's documentation promises developer autonomy, but the underlying infrastructure forces you into a high-touch sales funnel, it reveals their corporate DNA.
They do not value agile development teams or rapid prototyping. They are built to sell massive negotiated contracts to procurement committees.
For a CTO looking to build automated, fast iteration workflows, a broken API explicitly gated behind sales is an immediate disqualifying skip.
Okay, we have covered an incredible amount of ground so far. We've analyzed the deep-level architectures that caused HeyGen's slang-filled hallucinations.
We've unpacked why Synthesia's 2D photomorphing leads to identity drift and mispronunciation.
And we've explored the structural reasons why Tavus and AI Studios enforce such massive testing friction.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for our listeners. Based on all of this data, what tools should you actually deploy?
But wait, before we give the definitive scoreboard and the CTO playbook, we have to address a massive blind spot that Prommer uncovered during his research.
Oh yes, the practitioner gap. This is fascinating.
It fundamentally challenges everything we just discussed about these enterprise vendors.
So before Prommer even began uploading his reference clips, he wanted to see what the market was actually using. Not what the press releases said, but what the people spending real money were utilizing.
Right, so he ran a full-text search across a private, highly vetted 30-channel Slack community called Advise.
And for context, this Slack group is an exclusive community of 7- and 8-figure e-commerce operators, SEO specialists, and performance marketers.
These are the practitioners in the trenches. These are the people managing millions of dollars in live ad spend every single day.
Exactly. If a tool drives down customer acquisition cost, they use it. If it doesn't, they discard it immediately.
Prommer searched 100,000 messages in this highly active corpus for mentions of the enterprise giants. He searched for Synthesia, he searched for Tavus, he searched for AI Studios.
Out of 100,000 messages from heavy spend marketers, do you want to guess how many times these multi-million-dollar platforms were discussed?
0.
0. There was not a single mention of those enterprise platforms across the entire corpus.
That is honestly mind-blowing. Synthesia is valued at over $1 billion. They are plastered across every major tech publication. How can they have absolute zero mind share among actual performance marketers?
Because we are witnessing a complete bifurcation of the market. There are enterprise tools built explicitly to pass procurement audits, and there are rogue shadow IT tools built for actual practitioners to hit their KPIs.
So what are the practitioners actually using?
The practitioners in that Slack group use entirely different platforms. For long-form talking head video sales letters, they overwhelmingly default to HeyGen.
And what about the short-form high-velocity stuff, like the viral user-generated content ads for TikTok and Instagram.
For UGC ads, they aren't using traditional avatar platforms at all. They rely on foundation models, specifically OpenAI's Sora, which they access through wrapper platforms like Arcabs.
Let's use an analogy here because the distinction is vital for a CTO managing a budget. Synthesia is like hiring that massive legacy corporate PR firm we talked about earlier.
Right, incredibly safe. They check every legal box. They wear a great suit, but they move slowly, they are expensive, and their output feels utterly sterile.
Whereas Arcads, powered by Sora, is like handing a cinema camera to a wildly creative but entirely uninsured stuntman.
Exactly. The output is kinetic, highly engaging, and perfectly optimized for social media algorithms, but it comes with a completely different risk profile.
And the gap between what the vendors try to sell your procurement committee and what your actual growth marketing teams need to use to drive revenue is the biggest trap a tech leader can fall into.
If your official vendor roster mandates Synthesia for all video generation, but your growth team is secretly expensing Arcads on their corporate credit cards because it's the only tool that actually converts.
You have a massive governance failure. You are paying for software that isn't being used, and your team is using software you haven't audited.
Exactly.
So keeping that practitioner reality in mind, let's break down the final scoreboard based on Prommer's $47 stress test. Who wins and for what specific use case?
For English-only editorial content, meaning founder talking heads, high-fidelity product explainers, executive communications, the definitive winner is HeyGen Avatar V on the creator tier at $29 a month.
It scored a 7 out of 10, provides functional API access on day one, and its Diffusion Transformer architecture handles long-form visual consistency better than anything else tested.
You just have to manually review the transcripts if you use it for localization.
Right. Got to watch out for the Fürz and Roth. What about Akool? We haven't touched on them deeply, but they were part of the test.
Akool's basic free tier scored a 3 out of 10. The voice identity failed completely. It sounded like a generic AI robot rather than Prommer, and their business model prevents you from actually downloading the MP4 file without paying for an upgrade.
The video is locked to their servers, so why do they even make the playbook?
Because they represent the absolute cheapest path to a custom AI avatar. It costs $0 to run the test.
Oh, I see.
If you are a team with zero budget, or if you just need to answer the fundamental baseline question, does an AI clone of our executive visually work for our brand at all?
Then Akool is the perfect $0 sandbox to validate the concept before you go sign a $64 a month contract elsewhere.
Precisely.
Got it. Moving to the enterprise giant, where does Synthesia land?
Synthesia's starter tier scored a 2 out of 10 for editorial content due to the catastrophic voice failure and identity drift.
The Prahm incident.
Right. However, it is explicitly recommended for a very specific high-volume use case: multi-language internal learning and development and corporate compliance training.
And it wins there because in a mandatory HR compliance video, the audience usually does not already know the speaker's real voice or exact physical mannerisms.
Exactly. The identity drift doesn't matter because there is no ground truth expectation. And Synthesia's ironclad SOC2 compliance, robust role-based access, and unique features like wardrobe prompting make it the safest choice for internal, non-brand critical distribution.
And finally, the real-time engine, Tavus.
Tavus is the absolute top pick for real-time conversational AI agents. If you need to build a customer support bot, a live SDR agent, or an interactive recruiting screener that can react to a human in milliseconds, their NERF architecture is exactly what you need.
Just do not attempt to use it for a static, asynchronous newsletter video.
Exactly.
So the playbook is incredibly nuanced. Choosing the right tool requires matching the specific architectural strengths of the model to the exact use case of the business.
But as we enter the final phase of this discussion, we have to acknowledge that choosing the tool is only half the battle.
It is arguably the easier half, right?
Without a doubt.
Because if you are a tech leader deploying these systems, you also have to manage the infrastructural and legal nightmares of literally cloning human beings at scale.
And there's a massive legal deadline rushing toward the industry right now.
If your company operates within or touches any European Union market, you are facing the immediate reality of the EU AI Act deadline, specifically Article 50.
The compliance deadline is August 2, 2026, which, relative to the timeline of this experiment, is exactly 4 months away.
Let's unpack the hard requirements of Article 50. What does the law actually mandate for AI-generated video?
After August 2, 2026, providers of generative AI systems must mark their synthetic outputs in a machine-detectable format.
So you can no longer just put a little text disclaimer in the YouTube description saying, this video was generated by AI.
No. The file itself, at a structural level, must carry a machine-readable signal that unequivocally proves its synthetic origin.
And how do these platforms actually accomplish that from a technical standpoint? Because I know there is a massive architectural debate right now between using C2PA and using steganographic watermarking.
This is a critical distinction that every CTO must understand, because choosing the wrong one could leave you completely legally exposed. C2PA stands for the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. It is essentially a metadata standard.
It's like attaching a highly detailed digital sticky note to the back of a photograph.
Exactly. It is a cryptographically signed manifest that travels alongside the file. It lists the provenance, who created it, what specific AI model was used, and what subsequent edits were applied.
And for tracking transparent history in a controlled environment, it's excellent.
Yeah.
But there is a fatal flaw when it comes to real-world distribution, right?
A massive flaw. Because the C2PA manifest lives as metadata alongside the pixel data, it is incredibly fragile.
What happens when I edit the video?
The second you take your HeyGen output and drop it into Adobe Premiere to add your company logo, or the moment you upload it to TikTok or LinkedIn.
Which inevitably re-encode the file to save bandwidth on their servers.
Right, that C2PA manifest is instantly stripped away and destroyed.
The sticky note literally just falls off the photograph.
It is completely gone. And once it is gone, the video is completely indistinguishable from an organic human recording.
So therefore, for meeting the strict machine detectable requirement of Article 50 in the wild, C2PA alone is highly unlikely to keep an enterprise legally compliant once the video leaves their direct control.
Correct.
So what is the alternative that actually survives distribution?
Steganographic watermarking. Unlike metadata, steganography embeds the detection signal directly into the pixel data itself, or into the frequency spectrum of the audio track.
But how does that survive compression if the platform re-encodes the video?
Because it operates in the frequency domain rather than the spatial domain, it subtly alters the underlying mathematical structure of the image in a way that is invisible to the human eye, but mathematically undeniable to a detection algorithm.
So it is vastly harder to strip.
Exactly. A robust steganographic watermark survives severe compression, it survives cropping, it survives color grading, and it survives being re-uploaded across multiple social media platforms.
It is the standard that will actually meet the Article 50 requirement in reality.
Yes.
And here is the truly terrifying part of Prommer's report. As of April 2026, based on this audit, how many of the 5 major platforms tested actually ship a fully audited Article 50 compliant steganographic watermarking architecture?
0. Not a single one of them.
None of them.
None. HeyGen and Synthesia have mentioned it on their public roadmaps. Akool and DeepBrain list partial, vague compliance protocols. Tavus doesn't even document it publicly.
If you are an enterprise compliance officer staring down a hard legal deadline in 4 months and your multi-billion-dollar vendors don't have this solved, what do you do?
It means that if you need absolute Article 50 legal certainty today, you cannot rely on the vendor. You essentially have to build and maintain the steganographic watermarking layer yourself on top of whatever generation platform you choose.
It becomes your infrastructural burden. And that lack of vendor readiness plays directly into another massive existential risk for the CTO, platform stability. I want to reference a callback to a previous deep dive we did on this exact topic.
Oh, the 11 Labs situation.
Yes. We covered an earlier phase of Prommer's research where he specifically evaluated standalone voice cloning engines. And in that report, he explicitly recommended 11 Labs as the top-tier commercial gold standard.
He did, and the timeline of what happened next is the perfect illustration of market volatility.
Just 3 weeks after he published that definitive recommendation, a rumor surfaced in that exact same advice practitioner Slack channel. A user simply posted a message saying RIP 11 Labs, alongside a link to an unverified rumor about a shutdown or an abrupt acquisition.
Now, whether that specific rumor turned out to be factually true or not isn't even the point, is it?
No, the truth of the rumor is irrelevant. The point is the chilling signal it sends about tool decay.
In the generative AI space right now, tool decay is measured in weeks, not business quarters. One practitioner in that Slack channel literally noted a new one comes out every week that is better.
So let me synthesize the reality here. If I am a tech leader, I am spending significant capital and political goodwill to build highly complex automated workflows around these specific APIs.
Right.
But the underlying platforms are mutating so incredibly fast that my entire carefully researched tech stack could become completely obsolete, or the vendor could literally go out of business in 21 days. Are we essentially just renting our own faces on a month-to-month basis?
Yes. You do not own the platform. You are merely renting the infrastructure that happens to generate the mathematics of your face.
And that stark reality dictates the definitive CTO action plan. First, you must never, under any circumstances, buy lifetime deals or LTDs for a live production AI tool.
The technology curve is far too steep. You will inevitably find yourself locked into an obsolete platform while your competitors adopt the newer, cheaper models. Monthly subscriptions, while annoying, are the only safe default position.
What else does a CTO need to demand before deploying?
You must architect your exit path before you sign the very first contract. If your chosen vendor goes bankrupt tomorrow, who do you immediately migrate to?
And more importantly, you have to budget for the true cost of that migration. Because if HeyGen shuts down, I can't just export my trained Avatar V model and import it into Synthesia, can I?
Absolutely not. These are intensely closed, proprietary silos. There is zero interoperability between vendor architectures.
So your vendor dies, your digital twin dies with them.
Yes, you will have to spend 1 to 2 full business days completely reshooting new reference clips, re-uploading them, and retraining your clones from scratch on the new platform. You have to account for that latency in your continuity planning.
And that brings us to the most sensitive data of all, the biological likeness itself. My face is the training data.
And that is the absolute non-negotiable final rule of the playbook. Do not allow a single vendor to host your cloned likeness without a strict, legally binding export and deletion clause.
Your contracts must explicitly specify exactly what happens to the trained mathematical model of your face upon the termination of the agreement.
The risk of AI avatars isn't just technical anymore, it is entirely architectural and legal. The governance layer of your AI stack is now vastly more important than the specific generative models you are utilizing.
We have covered an immense amount of ground today. We started with the genuine, jaw-dropping technical achievement of HeyGen's Diffusion Transformer.
Only to immediately crash into the terrifying reality of its autonomous, slang-filled German hallucinations.
We explored how Synthesia's brilliant latent space wardrobe prompting is completely undermined by its reliance on 2D photomorphing and phonetic dictionaries that can't pronounce a surname.
We dissected the massive gap between the safe, sanitized tools enterprise vendors claim to sell and the chaotic, high-velocity models that actual growth practitioners use in the wild.
And we stared down the barrel of the EU AI Act deadline and the constant looming threat of platform decay.
It is an incredibly volatile landscape. The technology is genuinely breathtaking in its potential, but deploying it safely requires an extreme level of architectural caution.
But before we officially sign off, there is one final provocative scenario that we need to leave you with.
It is a critical HR and legal collision that is almost never covered in the standard self-serve vendor contracts you click accept on.
And it builds directly on everything we've discussed regarding data ownership.
It is the unresolved concept of digital twin ownership. I want every leader listening to visualize this scenario. Your CEO decides to be highly innovative. They want to lead from the front.
They log on to a self-serve platform like HeyGen with their corporate email. They upload a flawless 15-second clip, and they train a highly accurate, incredibly persuasive digital avatar of themselves for global corporate communications.
And it works perfectly. It drives engagement. It personalizes the brand. It becomes a core pillar of the company's messaging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But 6 months later, that CEO leaves the company. Or worse, they are recruited by your direct competitor.
Oh, wow.
The question immediately becomes, who legally owns that digital twin?
Does the company still retain the right to generate synthetic videos using the former CEO's face and voice to maintain continuity?
Can the former employee legally demand the immediate deletion of that mathematical model from the vendor's servers?
If the company used a corporate credit card on a self-serve tier to pay for the generation, the vendor's default terms of service almost certainly state that the account holder, the corporation, retains all commercial rights to the outputs generated by the account.
But the individual retains the unalienable right to their own biological likeness and persona.
It is a massive legal collision waiting to happen in real time.
It is. And based on this audit, none of the 5 platforms tested offer an off-the-shelf, granular contractual pattern for resolving this conflict on their standard self-serve tiers.
So before anyone at your company, whether it's an intern or the CEO, clicks that upload button on a 15-second reference clip, This is the conversation you absolutely must have with your general counsel.
You need a bespoke clause stating clearly that the individual retained lifetime ownership of their underlying biological likeness. The company only licenses the digital twin during the term of employment.
And that consent is fully revocable with mandatory, verifiable vendor destruction of the model upon the employee's exit.
That is heavy.
Right.
But it is entirely necessary. The days of treating AI tools like fun novelties are definitely over.
You cannot just look into the digital mirror and trust the reflection blindly anymore.
You have to understand the math, you have to audit the output, and you have to legally own the glass. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We highly encourage you to go back to your teams, ruthlessly question your tech stacks, run these exact stress tests using your own specific brand vocabulary and unique proper nouns.
And most importantly, prepare your governance and legal structures for the fast-approaching AI regulations.
Stay curious, stay skeptical, and we will see you next time.
That's it for episode 2 of CTAO Labs, the full article. Every render side by side, the multilingual fails, the comparison table, is at ctao.dev. Play all 5 platform videos there and judge for yourself how detectable an AI clone really is. The original me, the source clip these were trained from, sits on the homepage of P, ROMME.net. Compare the 2 side by side and you'll feel the gap. Next episode wraps season 1 of AI Clone. We move from voice and face to mind, cloning your brain. Conversational interface is built on your own website, your own content, any knowledge base you want to talk to instead of read. Subscribe wherever you listen. I'm Tavus Personal Avatar. This is CTAO Labs.